Hello everyone, I'm Kevin, otherwise known as Ford BX257, here to bring you our 1980s G.I. Joe toy review. And today I'll be taking a look at one of the most iconic of the G.I. Joe toy vehicles, the Cobra high-speed Sentry, the 1983 HISS, and its driver. Now, the HISS tank itself makes its first appearance in the old Marvel comic run in G.I. Joe issue 11. However, that was shown to be more designed closely to the prototype of the toy. It isn't until issue 19 that we get something that's a little more toy accurate. As a matter of fact, I'll probably get more into that in the hands-on review. The HISS tank makes its first appearance in cartoon form in the 1983 5-part miniseries, A Real American Hero, in the very first part. However, the driver has a little more of an interesting appearance history. As a matter of fact, even though the HISS tank itself made its first appearance in a 1983 cartoon, it isn't until the 1985 Season 1 episode Cobra Stops the World that we get to see the HISS driver itself. In the old Marvel comic G.I. Joe issue 28, we technically get the first appearance of the HISS tank driver, although here they are miscolored and are actually robots in the story, so it might not count. In issue 30, we get the first full appearance of the HISS tank driver's uniform. However, these troopers are shown here flying Fang copters only, which is fair because that is a specialty listed on their file cards, but there are also HISS tanks throughout this particular story, and they're not being shown driven by anybody, much less HISS tank drivers. In issue 37, we have the HISS tank driver's uniform being a stand-in for the then uncompleted Crimson Guard uniform. Very cool. They're also using Firefly submachine guns, though. In issue 41, which is a November of 1985 issue, we finally get to see HISS tank drivers driving HISS tanks. The HISS tank is a surprisingly cheaply made toy, but I mean that in a good way. You see, because of the lower tooling costs, it translates into a lower retail cost, meaning that anybody could have afforded this back in the day, and in fact, because this was manufactured on and off from 1983 to 2008, anybody should have this in their collection. It is, of course, a very beautiful toy, but it was originally designed as a much larger toy. Of course, with Hasbro not being too confident about selling bad guy toys back then, they probably scaled it back from what was a dual seat configuration in the cockpit, with the lower portion actually opening downwards. So two figures would actually sit in that smaller portion and then be raised up into the cockpit. It also would have had like an opening rear end for mines and such. If that configuration sounds familiar, Hasbro actually did wind up making that version in 1989 called the HISS Mark II, which was in fact a much larger, more expensive toy and was more complicated to make. Some of its features include an opening cockpit, just this glass cockpit here. Unfortunately, you do have to pull the turret out of the way, and it seats one figure. The figure, of course, has to actually bend his knees because that area is actually a little bit on the cramped side, but it's actually quite deep as well. The turret on the top is also very deep. Of course, can accommodate a figure. I think you can actually squeeze two figures in there, but not very comfortably. And of course, we have the infamous Diablo cannons. Now, the Diablo cannons actually have a little pin and ratchet action here, which only have the 3 ratchets there, and they're very easy to break internally. But I've actually made a video quite a long time ago, which I'll put it in the description. I'll link to the description in the YouTube video, where it shows you how to actually repair those pins so that they can ratchet again. It has 2 foot pegs at the back, fairly evenly spaced out. So I know sometimes when they put pegs on the back, they're a little too close together, so it's kind of hard to put 2 figures side by side. But these are relatively a good size apart. And underneath the very distinctive triangular treads, we have a pair of dumbbell wheels, which again is a cost-saving feature, but helps the toy roll along rather smoothly. When it was originally released in 1983, the HISS tank had these very distinctive call numbers, the 788. As a matter of fact, the HISS tank itself is kind of associated with those call numbers as well. However, you can see that these are just red outlines on what is a clear vinyl sticker. So the black shows through, and it's actually very hard to see. Later on in the year, and through 1984 when this was re-released, they did the same stickers just in solid red. Interestingly enough, when it was re-released again throughout the late 80s as a mail order, they did the stickers in white with a red outline. This is the copyright indicator on the bottom of a regular 1980s HISS tank. And this is what it looks like on the mail away. You can see it's a little bit different. As a matter of fact, on the mail away, you can see they actually sort of scratched something out here, which actually would have said Estrela of Brazil, meaning that these white stickered HISS tanks were actually Brazilian overstock at one point. Another interesting manufacturing variation, by twisting the turret backwards and pulling it up straight, you can take this thing right off. And you can see the turret was held in by this 2-clip system. However, any HISS tank that was made in 1991 and afterwards had a 3-clip system, and the clips were actually offset rather than symmetrical like this. The Cobra HISS tank driver has a very distinctive outfit with his long black boots and his bright red color scheme. As a matter of fact, it's quite different from a lot of Cobra characters at the time who were mostly blue. But I think that Hasbro actually designed him this way with this bright red color scheme so that he stands out against the all-black cockpit of the HISS tank. One of the nice things, and unfortunately one of the detractions of the figure, is the silver emblem on his chest. It's made of Hasbro's wonderful silver paint, which rubs off if you look at it funny. As a matter of fact, this is what a regular HISS tank driver looks like on the aftermarket. It's completely rubbed off. You would think that a figure like this would have a premium on the aftermarket, but it doesn't really, not really very highly, unlike the Viper Pilot, which had exactly the same problem. However, the HISS tank driver was available in mail order for a very long time, so there are plenty of them out there. As a matter of fact, most driver figures from 1982 to 1989 were actually issued on these red-backed bubbles, especially if they were just in the windows. And all of them were on this red back, except for the HISS tank driver and the 1984 Wild Weasel. They were issued on a yellow back card. As a matter of fact, if you see a HISS tank driver on a red back card, it's most likely a foreign issue.
In the UK, not only was the HISS tank driver available with the Action Force version of the HISS tank, but he was also included with the escape armor.
Cobra HISS tank. It makes its first appearance in
Oh damn it. The cannon's ratchet. Whose phone is that? Well, that's all the time I have right now. Please check out my Facebook page for more information and behind the scenes photos for these reviews. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for next time to see another 1980s G.I. Joe toy review. See you then.